Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with a Total War Warhammer 2 custom game double cast. This time around it is going to be a couple of practice games I was running against one of my friends, Bob is Great, and we just trying out different things, different bits of ridiculousness, and I decided to demonstrate some of these battles so you guys can see some of these fun builds and just see some of the silliness we were doing. So this first match, it was Empire against Tomb Kings, and I was running Tomb Kings. I wanted to try out something a little different, so rather than going with a straight-up infantry comp, which is usually what I run, I wanted to go with some heavy cav and do some shenanigans with Necropolis Knights and High Queen Khalida and see if we could make something silly work. So for my composition, I did decide to bring High Queen Khalida, as we already mentioned. She doesn't have her Blessing of Asaph, obviously, because we're not going to be shooting. She does have Venom Wave, though, Tomb Strike, the Venom Staff, as well as my Will Be Done, of course, and the Curse. So I was expecting that my opponent might be bringing some sort of heavy cav, Reiksguard, Knights of the Blazing Sun, Demi Griffin Knights, all very popular and very common in this matchup. So I figured, he might bring them. And with Khalida's buffs and with the Necropolis Knights' innate bonus versus large and poison and AP, they could definitely dish out some major hurt. They are backed here by a Lich Priest of Light who does have Fast Protection, Net of a Mintok, as well as the Scrolls of the Mighty Scrolls of Incantations, or whatever it is, and then a Necrotect with Restore, because obviously the Necropolis Knights are constructs, so you can restore them with a Necrotect. And on his chariot, he should be able to mulch through Empire State troops just fine and disrupt backlines and all that sort of stuff. And honestly, heroic chariots aren't terrible against Cav either, because Cav generally doesn't have the best melee defense, so generally chariots will be hitting a few models and doing some damage that way too. For the front line, it is a bunch of Skeleton Spears backing up 2 Tomb Guard, the Kepra Guard, as well as a single unit of Shopti. So basically just there to zone away some heavy cav if needed, and this front line of Tomb Guard and Kepra Guard will trade okay with, say, a bunch of Great Swords or cheaper state troops to do great against. Certainly, this could be vulnerable to explosives, this can be vulnerable to magic and all that sort of stuff, but nonetheless, it's basically just a holding line because the main strike force is here. Finally, 2 Carrion up in the skies, ready to disrupt backlines and make themselves a major nuisance. Now for Bob here, he decided to run also rather unconventional comp. The 3 Outriders, not that unique. Definitely, they're a very solid pick in this matchup. They give you a whole bunch of AP, and that's obviously great against constructs. They're also rather mobile. Tomb Kings do not have many mobile options. Carrion are rather fast, but Flyers not necessarily the best. If there's Knightly Protection, which he's got Zendler's Reiksguard and normal Reiksguard here, the Carrion won't really do that great against Outriders, and everything else is too slow to catch the Outriders because they do have 84 speed. So it's one of those things that's a bit tough for the Tomb Kings for sure. For the rest of this comp, he did bring a front line of Sigmar's Sons as well as Halberdiers and Spearmen, so also not over-investing in this front line. It's definitely going to be a pretty evenly flimsy front line, I would say. But he does have the backing of Volkmar the Grim with Benediction, which is great to keep that leadership up. He's got the Grand Hammer of Sigmar, he's got the Grand Shield of Faith, and then, of course, his Jade Griffin for the regen. He is backed by Grey Wizard here with Penumbral Pendulum, Melkos Miasma, and Enfeebling Foe, the Silver Bullets for some AP, and interestingly enough, he's got some Spearmen and the Sunmaker in the back here, and they are immediately going to start pounding on the Kepra Guard, who are unfortunately trapped out here in the open. So when the front lines clash here, our line's definitely not the most impressive thing ever. We've both invested rather heavily in the flanks, but obviously with that heroic support and with that firepower support from the Silver Bullets, this front line should be in my opponent's favor, so I really need to win out on the flanks. So you can see almost immediately we've got the Necropolis Knights shifting over there, and as you can see, I'm going to be sending the Carrion over here, trying to get some disruption on the backline, trying to shut down some of these Sunmakers, trying to shut down all that stuff. And you can see, unfortunately, the Kepra Guard here really being pounded, as my cavalry contingent is going to shift over here and try to catch these Outriders. Unfortunately, they're kind of savvy to the fact that I'm trying to net him here, so while I get a net of Mintok, which is definitely nifty, it's just not really going to be enough. Like this single unit of Outriders, I overcasted hoping to catch 2 Outriders, and instead we only caught 1. And while we will plow into them now, we will be able to take off quite a few models on these Outriders. It's definitely going to be a tough spot, and you can see these snakes still kind of making their way across. They do dive in here against the Outriders, who immediately get melted. I do believe the Necropolis Knights do have some sort of splash attack, so they're going to mow through these Outriders very, very quickly, even with High Queen Khalida in there. And the Reiksguard charge gets interrupted because of the net, but nonetheless, we are getting pounded by that crossfire coming in from all these Outriders on the flanks. But we do get some spears in here as well. So we're going to be able to kind of zone in, zone out my opponent. We are going to be able to deal with these Reiksguard, dispatch them pretty efficiently. And we do have that Carrion there to chase after enemy troops. Unfortunately, my other unit of Carrion misused pretty badly. I used them on the Sunmaker, and that was a waste. Honestly, the Sunmaker's going to get his shots off here. There's nothing I can do about it. I should have just accepted that fact and used that second unit of carrying over here to try to get rid of these Outriders, which we are doing now a little belatedly. Now, unfortunately, we have lost one of our Necropolis Knights. Or actually, well, no, I lied. We've lost 4 models of Necropolis Knights, not just one, in that exchange between the Outriders. The Outriders, of course, will do rather well against these guys because they aren't shielded. And so while we will get a nice little restore here, that's going to heal them up a good bit, they're still weaker. It's definitely a disadvantage. Now, the Reichsguard over here escaping and outrunning the Necropolis Knights, who are of course not the fastest fellows in the world, but you know they're kind of slithering along, trying their best. Meantime, the Carrion are going to swing around, so the cavalry fight is very much a bit of a Benny Hill action on the flanks. While here, the infantry engagement, things are going to go down rather hastily. You can see the Kepler Guard here slugging it out with the Halberdiers. Now, the Kepler Guard, even as mauled as they are, might actually be able to come out on top here. Kepler Guard with that regen and those very respectable melee stats is definitely a force to be reckoned with. Unfortunately, elsewhere though, with Volkmar in the fray, with the Sigmar Sons being pretty respectable in close quarters, with the Penumbral Pendulums, we're just not going to be able to hold. We're not really going to be able to win here, and you can see those shots just crumbling, and the infantry contingent here is just getting mauled. So my opponent really kind of decisively winning this front line fight. But over here, we are mowing down this cavalry, and this is a very expensive investment as well. Zindler's Reichsguard here getting slaughtered by Necropolis Knights. Unfortunately, the Outriders here on hold your ground mode, so they are firing into the Necropolis Knights, doing a lot of hurt. They have gotten 3 kills, and 3 kills against the Necropolis Knights is not what I want happening right now. The Zindler's Reichsguard forced off, chased off, taking a lot of hurt here, and they are going to be forced off the field. So we're going to get rid of all that Reichsguard, which is sweet. But unfortunately, these Outriders, they're able to kind of run away. I don't have any tools to catch them. One of the big problems with Flyers is that they tend to clip the units at the back of a formation. So then the rest of the formation, all remaining like 40 miles or whatever, are just going to escape. And the Carrion just are not going to be able to effectively catch them. Even when they dive, they're always going to slow down as they hit the ground. It's just a big problem. And a similar problem even for the Necropolis Knights. So it's definitely a bit of a rough situation for the Tomb Kings. But that said, we have wiped out the cavalry contingent for the most part. We do try to net down some of the Outriders here. And unfortunately, the rocket launcher here is going to wipe out these poor Tomb Guard as they clump up around Volkmar. But we did get a nice little summon here with Ushapti. We're going to start working on this on the Silver Bullets, try to mow through them a little bit, try to cause a little bit of hurt. And our remaining infantry is finally kind of squeezing in there. And it's definitely not the end of the world. We're definitely getting some value here. The Necropolis Knights able to get on the Spearmen. They actually gained a chevron in those fights with the Reichsguard. They're going to get on these Spearmen. They're going to be able to tear through them, get them off the field. Obviously, I do believe they have Splash, and with a respectable damage output, they're going to be able to do some hurt here, and they're going to be able to get these guys away pretty quickly. Unfortunately, the Outriders over here, although they do rout, they are once again too quick for me to catch. The poison effect simply doesn't stay applied because when all the rest of these guys run away, these guys are stuck beating on like the one guy they've caught. So it kind of sucks. But in the meantime, you know, the Hellstorm Rocket Battery, 140 kills, definitely having gotten some good value this game, definitely having done some good work. Silver Bullets, you're getting bogged down alongside the Outriders by my last unit of Carrion, and we have managed to shatter these Spearmen, which is definitely pretty good. The Necropolis Knights doing their country proud, and now the cavalry contingent is coming in. And you can see the balance of power definitely somewhat in my favor, so it's definitely not, despite this big loss here in the center, it's definitely not just over yet. It's definitely not swung one way or another, and you can see the Outriders here still around kicking. Of course, my opponent, if he managed to keep his black powder online, he will be able to mow through my Necropolis Knights, mow down High Queen Khalida. Of course, Volkmar has no pushover in close quarters either. The big problem here is, though, that he's lost his mobility. So now I'm going to be able to kind of abuse my own mobility, my own sort of striking power to try to plow through units, to try to push through these Halberdiers and these state troops and kind of cycle charge them from all angles. And you can see the Carrion here trying to deal with the Outriders. I do try to get a Venom Staff off. Unfortunately, I really should have been a little more patient. I should have waited for a bigger blob to get that off, but I did not, so fortunately that is what it is. But over here you can see the Necrotect trying to get in on the Silver Bullets, trying to take them offline because it's very important right now. Sure, getting a few kills on the Halberdiers is not terrible, but we really need to get these Silver Bullets offline. Black Powder, if it stays alive, is going to cost me the game. If I can get rid of the Black Powder or release neuter it enough, I should be in an okay spot. So you can see over here the Necropolis Knights do try to help break these spears, but with Volkmar's backing, they're going to push these guys off. They've only got 90 armor, and especially once they start losing their vigor, they're going to be a much worse spot. Unfortunately, over here, these Outriders do get caught by the Necropolis Knights, who just pile through, ignoring the spears and the halberds all around them, and they're going to do some major work. And of course, High Queen Khalida, with her Tomb Strike going, is just plowing through this Grey Wizard, who's having a horrible time. He's definitely reconsidering his life decisions here, and he's going to get terror-outed off, so definitely some rough stuff there. You can see this infantry formation being broken up by the Necropolis Knights. The Outriders getting torn up. But nonetheless, although the bounce pattern is shifting decisively in my favor, quite a bit in my favor, it's certainly not over. There's certainly still some black powder on the field. There's certainly 2 Outriders. There's certainly Volkmar still around kicking. But we are trying to sort of isolate units, isolate pockets of troops, chase them off, and deal with them that way. And you can see Necrotech getting a few kills, being very loud and angry. Khalida screaming, "Kill them!" All very, very mad and angry. Look at the angry snake lady here with her fancy staff writhing in her hand. But she's still very healthy, and that's definitely going to be one of the big problems for Bob here, is the fact that Khalida is obviously still basically full, and she is a very potent force. She's not a bad combat lord at all. She's got 60-65 for her melee stats, so if she's not getting shot, there's not much that can take her effectively in this Empire army. Even the Halberds will struggle to hit, because their melee stats are just not that good. So you can see the Grey Wizard here in full route. High Queen Khalida trying to pick off these silver bullets, trying to get rid of this black powder presence. And now we're trying to chase after the Outriders, because really, this infantry can't support the Outriders. The Outriders can try to sort of duck in and out or weave into this formation, but if we're able to isolate them, if we're able to pick them off, get rid of like half these models, we will be in a pretty good spot. Over here, the Chariot does plow through the Sigmar Suns, and you can see the Necrotech here farming some kills, up to 55 kills now, so definitely not bad. Unfortunately, he doesn't have the best armor, so he definitely is susceptible to spears and that sort of stuff. But hey, he's doing some work. High Queen Khalida over here does pick off the Grey Wizard, or is able to sort of isolate him and beat him down. And he's not where he wants to be in life. You can see he's trying to withdraw. If my opponent can get some spells off, it could still also be a big game changer, especially Melkoth Miasma to prevent knights from cycle charging, or enfeebling foe to catch High Queen Khalida in a compromising position. But she's sort of biting away at him there. And the Necrotech, that pushes through and is going to force these silver bullets off the field. So that's a big win for me. And we actually snag these Outriders with a net and are able to finish them off. So they shatter, which only leaves us one 20-man unit. And so all of a sudden, balance of power pretty decisively in my favor. We are going to mop up a few of these troops on the periphery. So it's a bit of Benny Hill action here. As we're trying to still catch these Outriders who are just depressing me with how fast they are and with how difficult they are to snag. But over here, High Queen Khalida going to push in, get her Venom Staff off, because this is a huge blob, sort of perfect opportunity. Let's see, she's got 16 kills right now. Let's see how much it does. It just bounces in, it explodes. You can see it just hitting all these troops. She actually got like 45 kills there. It was pretty crazy. It's definitely not a terrible item. It can definitely do some damage. You can see, unfortunately, though, the Outriders are definitely quick enough to escape. So High Queen Khalida not able to catch them. The snake's kind of getting snared there. And Empire infantry pocket, this defensive formation, this defensive geometry is trying to hold out. Definitely a bit of a nuisance. But now I decided to sort of launch an Alpha Strike. We're going to hit him from all sides, even as Volkmar sort of casts his Grand Shield of Fate there. High Queen Khalida is going to jump in. She's going to start doing damage. The Necrotech's in there doing damage. And as this is all going on, in come the Necropolis Knights. We are going to pop our Tomb Strike, which is going to cause that fear, terror, get that Venom Wave off, and suddenly this entire infantry pocket is just going to chain route. And that is going to be a big win for me. At that point, it's basically just GG. The Outriders teeing off from the outside are just not going to be able to decide this, and Volkmar and the handful of Sigmar Sons are just not powerful enough to carry the day. So that is going to be GG for this game. And a lot of fun with these builds. These both not necessarily the most competitive builds. Obviously, the Sunmaker, bit of an iffy choice. Obviously, Necropolis Knights, not necessarily what I would recommend. I personally usually run different builds with Tomb Kings against Empire, but it can work. It can be a lot of fun. Certainly don't underestimate it. Necropolis Knights, they did some major work here. The biggest problem is they're just so squishy, and there's not many ways for Tomb Kings to keep them in good health. You don't have the super powerful healing spell. They're squishier than, say, even Chaos Knights. You don't really have the powerful healing magic of Empire or Bretonnia or Elves or whatever. You don't have Lore of Life. You don't have the heals from vampire accounts. You don't have the support summons, really. You don't have a great supporting cav either. The way, let's say, Greenskins can get Spider Riders, or with, well, it's not cav, but in the case of Lizardmen, you can use your skinks, or in the case of Undead, you can summon zombies in a spot. That can be very useful. And you don't really have those options with the Tomb Kings, because your infantry is too slow for that sort of support role, and your light cabs doesn't really provide much support. So it's kind of, I think they're a little iffy, but they can definitely perform, and they definitely did some work here. Khalida, 94 kills, and Necrotech, 94 kills, so great work there. For my opponent's build, Sunmaker got some massive value against the infantry. Outriders can definitely be a menace. I think Lore of Lightcaster with a net could have actually been really potent for this build to help those Outriders out. But otherwise, well played. And we're going to hop on over to our second game, which was a bit of Beastmen on Dark Elf action. So if you guys don't like sand, then I apologize. This is Spice Dunes again. But the build's obviously quite a bit different. I decided to go with a Beastmen Chariot build. We went the whole hog, no pun intended, with our beautiful Baconators here. And I've brought Kazarak One Eye, who is a pretty cool lord. It's pretty him or the Beast Lord can be a lot of fun to bring if you're going full Chariot build. The big problem, of course, being they're very simple lord sniping. So that perhaps a little bit of a mistake, but you know, otherwise I wanted to center up on the Chariots because the Chariots can just be such a potent force. They can really devastate enemy squads of Sister Slaughter, who can be a massive menace. They can run down skirmish infantry like Black Orc Corsairs, who are also a huge nuisance, and they can cause a lot of disruption. They can cause a lot of damage, and I just find them to be really, really solid in this matchup. So we got Kazarak with all his buffs except for the Dark Mail. We do have the Brave Shaman of the Beasts here with a Lore of, well, Lore of Beasts. It's kind of a stupid statement of me to say, but with Lore of Beasts, he's got Flock of Doom as well. And then over here, Lord of Shadows with Melkoth's Miasma and Enfeebling Foe. Both do have the Jagged Dagger, and we do have the trait here, the Wild Heart, for the Lore of Beasts. For the front line here, there's a whole bunch of Gorehorde with Shield and the Black Orange Ravagers, just there to soak up missiles and slug it out with cheap Dark Elf infantry, so stuff like Witch Elves. The Witch Elves aren't the ideal engagement for these guys for sure, but things like Dread Spears and all that sort of stuff they'll do pretty well against. They're backed by the Koroks Man Rippers here in the back, who will provide some anti-large and AP, and they are, of course, rather mobile themselves, being Beastmen troops. On one flank, we do have Centaurs with Great Weapons and Chaos Warhounds. On the other, it is Sons of Goros and more Warhounds, all backed by the Butchers of Kalkengard here for some AP terror regenning monsters. So a lot of stopping power. But one mistake I made is I forgot about the Raven Heralds. So I have no shooting. So I have no tools to take down the Raven Heralds. So unfortunately, Bob here definitely has me in a crappy position because the Raven Heralds, while not necessarily the most amazing potential damage output on them, can get that damage off for completely free here. I literally don't have any tools to take them down. So they're going to be able to shoot at whatever the heck they want. They could snipe my lords, they could snipe the butchers, they could snipe at the centaurs, and they will do massive damage to any of those and be a rather valuable unit. For the rest of my opponent's build, a front line of Black Orc Corsairs just there to kite and flight and poke away at my lightly armored troops. They're backed by some Witch Elves and some Dread Spears, as well as Marathi up here with Melkoth's Miasma and Soul Stealer and Power of Darkness. She does also have Enchanting Beauty and Heartrender and Dark Sword, so a whole bunch of debuffs and AP, anti-large. She's just a very solid combatant. You guys all know that. And then Slaanesh Harvesters and Doomfire Warlocks over here on the flank. These guys are getting a pretty big change in the upcoming patch. These guys, their spells, which currently you just have a set amount of charges of them, are going to require that the Doomfire Warlock be over 50% HP to use them. So that is going to be rather tough. I could see that making them much less ridiculous unit potentially, because right now they can just get so much value out of the bound spells. And we'll definitely see how it plays out. It could definitely be some pretty cool stuff. It could definitely be a pretty good rebalance. But regardless, they are a pretty potent force in this matchup. They'll do rather well against the lighter Beastman Cav, and of course, they'll run through your backlines and they'll do stuff that they'll really mess up, say, Ungor Raiders or Ungors or even Gors pretty effectively. Sons of Goros, though, do have magic damage, so that's not one. That's like the one fight they don't want to be taking. That said, we are going to push in almost right away. I obviously can't afford to sit around because the Raven Heralds are there. They did get a little bit of damage. Unfortunately, the Hounds here getting caught out by the Doomfire Warlocks, but in come the Sons of Goros, and they are going to start doing some major damage. Unfortunately, though, Soul Stealer is going to go down. It's going to start melting this blob of troops. We are swinging our casters over here. We are going to start swinging our Chariot mob over here because Chariots, like I said, they can do okay against Cav. Not amazing, but they can do some work. They can definitely be a nuisance. You can see over here with Word of Pain on these guys, the Sons of Goros definitely struggling a little bit, being debuffed by poison as well. But we are going to get our Baconators in there. We're going to get them all in here against the Doomfire Warlocks, and really going to be able to mow through them pretty efficiently. In the meantime, the front lines are kind of closing the gap. Unfortunately, the Butchers of Kalkengard are getting shot to death, losing a model, and just taking a pounding, and there's really nothing I can do. You can't really dodge with them. They're too slow for that. I could, maybe if I just invested a lot of micro, try to like juke back and forth, but really it's just there's no way for me to protect them, so that's really messed up. I really should have brought like a unit of Ungor Raiders, but what can you do? So now we're getting pounded, so shortly our front lines are going to start advancing. You can see we're going to push in against these Dark Elf troops. And over here, with the backing, of course, of Kazarak, with the backing of these casters and all that sort of stuff, we're going to be able to force Marathi back pretty efficiently. And deal with these Doomfire Warlocks. These Slaanesh Harvesters are off. The Doomfire Warlocks over there pretty badly beaten up. But unfortunately, the Butchers of Kalkengard are just getting dumpstered here. Certainly, it's taking up half the ammo on the Raven Heralds, and perhaps I was mistaken to push them up. I figured kind of screw this. It's not gonna. I'm not going to be able to really avoid the damage. But really, exposing the back here of the Butchers is really going to start making pay. You can see they're going to take quite a beating from these Raven Heralds as they try to advance. Meantime, though, in the front line, the Gores slugging out with the Dread Spears, taking constant barrage of abuse from the Black Ark Corsairs. And the Witch Elves rampaging the front line, rampaging these Gores who are for some reason chasing the Black Ark Corsairs when they should just stay and fight the Witch Elves. So I don't really get that, but what can you do? And certainly the front line not going ideally for me. The Butchers are going to push in. The Korok's Man-Rippers are kind of behind the times, not really in position. We are going to get a bit of a Flock of Doom here, so going to do some nice damage. You can see the Chariots hitting these Black Ark Corsairs from the flank, and they will be able to push through, do whole oodles of damage. You can see these guys dropping by like 20 models in the space of a few seconds, and the Bray Shaman now pushing on, getting into these Corsairs. So we're getting huge value out of our Chariot mob against this infantry, but unfortunately, at this point, Kazrak here is actually going to rampage. So he takes the tiniest little scratch from the Witch Elves, and all of a sudden things are going to start looking really, really grim, because Kazrak is now out of control. Certainly the Bray Shamans are around kicking, but I really need Kazrak to stay around to keep fighting. Unfortunately over here we are going to lose our Sons of Gores to the Doomfire Warlocks. We've got the jump on them, and at this point things are looking grim. The Centaurs and the puppies are all the way out of position. Our Chariots really have to be chasing these Black Ark Corsairs. They can't afford to do anything otherwise. But unfortunately, because of that, Kazrak, you're getting mown down. What I probably should have done is pivoted around with some of these Chariots, maybe brought one over here, gotten another Flock of Doom on, and pushed in with the Heroic Chariots to get these Witch Elves off of Kazrak. But unfortunately, instead all that happens here is I get hit by a Soul Steal, I get dove upon by Marathi, and Kazrak's going to get taken to Pound Town, so that's going to be a really bad situation. In the front line, the Butchers get routed off by the Sisters of Singing Doom, who are doing surprisingly well against the Korok's Man-Rippers, despite all these buffs and debuffs hitting, or all the debuffs hitting them. Just were not able to cut through them quickly enough. And certainly now we are trying to get our Centaurs into the fray, but there's these spears. There's just so many spears all over the place. We're just not really able to compromise that backline efficiently enough. And our Shamans, once Kazrak gets run off and gets dealt with, the Shamans are going to be pretty exposed to Marathi, which is really going to be the end game, unfortunately for me. The Raven Heralds here, once again, we are dropping a Flock of Doom, melting this pocket a good bit, getting some value out of that blobbing. But unfortunately, the Bray Shamans, despite getting quite a few kills here and doing quite some work, they're definitely no pushovers. They're definitely, you can see, contributing quite a bit. They're just not going to be able to really cut the mustard. We're going to start losing this pocket. And at this stage, it's just a matter of time before things go out of control. Marathi, you can see, does dive in on my casters. He's going to pick them apart. You can see another Soul Stealer going down, melting those poor guys. And at this point, they are going to simply rout. It's going to be army losses for the Beastmen as the casters give up the fight and run away. So, good game once again. These were some fun practice matches. We had some others that I didn't necessarily think were as good for casting, but we had some fun matches. It was fun to test stuff out. Now, this build, a huge mistake on my part, not bringing anti-air of any sort, any form. It screwed me immensely. The Raven Heralds got way too much value, and it was really, really bad for me. Otherwise, the build, not necessarily was competitive. Kazrak, I probably should have gone with Morgar, honestly. He's just a much better pick as far as survivability goes. Especially against a faction that's not terrible at gooning people out, like Dark Elves, who do have some decent options for surrounding and beating your Lord down or sniping them with spear leeches and stuff. Might have been better to bring Morgar, but oh well, hindsight is 20/20. What can you do? Very well played. Bob is great here. I had a lot of fun. I do hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you enjoyed this bit of a double cast. I'm definitely excited for the patches that's coming in a few weeks, probably. Certainly some things that we saw in the Everchosen Invitational are apparently still subject to change, but Lizardmen getting huge reworks. We're getting weapon strength buffs to Giants. Gorbles, which should be huge for Beastmen. Gorbles are getting a huge mass buff. We're getting there's just all sorts of stuff, all sorts of balance changes. I'm pretty excited to see how it plays out, how it ends up when the patch hits. So definitely looking forward to that. Like I said, I do hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, share, and I do appreciate all the support you guys give me. And I'll see you all in the and if you comment, criticize, whatever, be sure to let me know what you guys think. Always, I do read your guys' comments and your criticisms to try to improve the channel and try to improve my casting and all that. So be sure to let me know what you guys think. And I do thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. So, bye for now.